Hi, my name is Dan Eisner, and I'm an occupational therapist and also a certified life coach, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about an online seminar I'm offering entitled How to Prepare Yourself Emotionally, Physically, and Spiritually for Your Fieldwork, the 7 Gateways to Fieldwork Success. Even though I've been a practicing OT for about 14 years now, I can remember vividly just how scared I was when I was going out into my fieldwork. And even though I passed and I got through it okay, the truth is I was a lot more stressed than I needed to be, and I struggled a lot more than I needed to be because I really didn't understand how to keep myself emotionally balanced and to keep my well-being intact. And even though times have changed, I think a lot of the students have the exact same concerns and fears that I had when I went out onto my fieldwork. And the reason I've created this course is because I want to make your experience a lot more easier, more fun, and more enjoyable than mine. Let's talk about what some of these common fears are. And I'm just going to drop this first one because we all have it, and that is, I'm not going to pass. I don't know of one student who doesn't have that fear at one time or another, but there's a lot of others, like, what if I can't perform the skills correctly? What if I can't put it all together? Everything I've learned, what if I can't put it together? What if I can't think like an OT? What if my clients can tell I'm not confident? I remember that being a particularly big one for me. And what if I can't handle all the pressures? The truth is, fieldwork really tests your resolve. In addition to those sort of naturally inherent challenges we just discussed, there's a lot of very practical challenges that we have to deal with. Like, how do you motivate people who don't want to participate? How do you get yourself to speak up and feel comfortable doing that when you tend to be a quiet person? How can you work with culturally diverse clients or maybe patient populations that you're not very familiar with? And these are just a few of the kind of challenges that come up during fieldwork. And the truth is, there's no one right way to handle any of these challenges because there's so many dynamics involved that we really can't give clear-cut solutions. And the reality is that each one of us kind of has to figure it out for ourselves. We really have to find our own answers. Now, what a lot of students don't realize is that students who don't make it through, it's not because of a lack of technical skills, it's because of a lack of being able to interact really effectively with their clients, with their peers, and with their educators. That's the number one reason why students don't make it through fieldwork, and it's completely unnecessary. I've always loved this quote, experience without knowledge is ignorance, because I think a lot of us have experience repeating patterns of behavior that don't serve us well, but we don't have a knowledge base that explains why we do what we do. This makes it very difficult to change. That's exactly why I've created this course, so we can really understand human behavior and how we can really interact and connect with people in the most meaningful way. So let's talk about the benefits of this seminar. The first benefit is you're going to understand stress and how to reduce it in an entirely new way. The second benefit, you're going to understand how you can be clear, calm, and confident during your fieldwork. And the third benefit is you're going to understand how to best use yourself therapeutically. And that's really about being of service in ways you never thought possible. We tend to lose focus of that, of why we're in this business in the first place. We really want to serve, while by understanding what you're going to learn in this seminar, you're going to be able to connect and serve in ways that are just incredible, just beyond imagination. So let's talk about what the 7 gateways to fieldwork success are. The first gateway is the science behind stress and the therapeutic use of self, and ironically, they really do go hand in hand. And what this gateway has everything to do with is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence kind of means what it sounds like, being smart or being intelligent about our emotions. So that starts with understanding what we're feeling and why we're feeling it. Then it involves understanding how we can sort of change our thinking and behavior to improve the way that we feel. It also involves being able to look at other people and understanding what they're feeling, and then being able to adjust the way that we're being to get the best interactions with other people. Obviously you can see how that's going to play a huge role in being a really efficient therapist. But what it really boils down to, what emotional intelligence really boils down to, is awareness. And it all starts with self awareness. And what I'd like you to understand right now is that as human beings, we are just not nearly as self-aware as we like to think that we are. Just like Michael Scott on The Office, if you've ever seen that show, everyone around him can see that he has no idea, what he's doing, but he can't see it in himself. Well, the truth is we all do this to an extent, and much like an iceberg, only about 10% is above the ground, the rest is beneath the surface. Well, when it comes to emotional intelligence and self-awareness, we really have to commit to sort of digging deep. And when we do that, and we really understand, what's driving our thinking and behavior, that's how we can really connect and serve in ways that we never thought possible. So the first gateway has everything to do with emotional intelligence. The second gateway is acceptance and the power of now. Now, we all know that we have to accept things, and that old saying, it is what it is, might be one of the most common sayings of all time. But what most of us don't realize is that very often we don't like what it is, and when we don't like what it is, we unconsciously, beneath the surface, push against it. We kind of think that if we just push hard enough, it'll go away. Very common example of this is students who have performance anxiety that they can't seem to get rid of. What they don't recognize is that they're pushing against that anxiety beneath the surface, and that's what makes it persist. In this gateway, we're going to talk about how this works and how we can begin to change that. The third gateway is taking care of your well-being. It's all about energy. We all know that energy is real, and I think most of us have an understanding on some level that we are really made of pure energy. But I think that the reality of that sort of gets pushed underneath the surface. We really don't think about how much that matters, but it is incredibly important. Well, in this gateway, we're going to talk about some very, very, very cool and exciting sort of modalities that can teach us about our energy and how we can use some information to really improve the energy that we're bringing into our fieldwork. Some of these areas, just to introduce them now, we've got the Institute of Heart Math, Empowering Heart-Based Living. This shows how the heart and the brain are connected, and when we improve our emotional state, our heart rate improves and our rhythms in our heart improves, and that affects our brain function. Then we have Qigong and meditation. These are both forms of meditation, and it's shown how when we meditate, either with movement with Qigong or more formal meditation, we actually slow down our brain waves, we actually improve our energy. And there's an incredible technique called the emotional freedom technique, which involves tapping on different acupressure points. All of these are just a few of the modalities that we're going to talk about, and they're all incredibly profound, very practical tools and techniques and information that we can use to dramatically improve the energy that we're bringing. Okay, the fourth gateway is establishing rapport. It's all about communication. It's quite obvious that the ability to establish rapport, the ability to connect with people, may be one of the most important skills we can have as an occupational therapist. But the truth of most of us don't really understand how communication works. One of the most valuable things that I've learned is that words mean very little. As a matter of fact, words are only about 7% of communication. The rest, of course, is nonverbal communication, and the main ingredient of nonverbal communication is, of course, emotion. But as we've discussed, most of us are not aware of what we're feeling and most of the time, or a lot of the time, and we're not aware of how that's subtly affecting our ability to communicate and really connect with people. Well, again, when we understand what we're feeling and we understand how that relates to our communication, that's how we can begin to connect and serve in ways that are just incredible. So this gateway has everything to do with communication. The fifth gateway is maximizing potential, understanding the shadow effect. And the shadow effect is an incredible documentary, and the main message of this documentary is that we all have every quality that exists. Every single quality we all have, but the truth is we don't necessarily like to own some of our so-called dark or negative qualities, and what we try to do is we try to push them down beneath the surface, and we try to pretend that they're not there. A very common experience for most students on their level 2 fieldwork is that things seem to, areas of need or limitations seem to pop up out of nowhere. It's like they're complete surprise that they actually had difficulty maybe speaking up, asserting themselves, things like this. Well, what I've learned is this is really what's called the beach ball effect. Think about what happens if you try to take a beach ball and you push it underwater. Eventually it's going to pop right back up. Well, that's what happens when we try to hide qualities about ourselves that we're not so proud of. The good news is that if we understand a little bit how this works and the mechanism behind the way we do this, and we understand what I've learned is really the power of vulnerability and how it's okay to look at these qualities, not only to look at them, but to own them and to share them with other people, we can make our experience in field work and in life in general dramatically easier. So this fifth gateway has everything to do with maximizing potential, understanding the shadow effect. The sixth gateway is the law of attraction, really understanding the basics. There's been a lot of attention to the law of attraction over the last several years, and there's an incredible amount of resources out there. But what's most important to understand right now is that we all have what's called an emotional guidance scale. This is sort of like our own internal barometer that tells us where we are emotionally in any given moment. And one of the most important things about this is that, the more negative we're feeling, the more negative we're feeling, the lower our energy is. The more positive we're feeling, the higher our energy is. When we understand that we have this scale, what we can do is we can use that scale to identify where we are emotionally, and then we can literally reach for different thoughts and behaviors that can subtly but very, very clearly move us up our energy scale. And as we move up our energy scale, well, our mind becomes more clear and we become much more able to serve. And that's what we're here to do as occupational therapists. So sixth gateway has everything to do with the law of attraction, understanding the basics. And the last gateway is really understanding the process of change. Now, I love this picture here because I think it paints a very realistic picture of what it's like when we're changing. In 1 minute, we feel great, then we're kind of down on our luck, then we're climbing back up, and then we feel like we're on top of the world again. The information that we're going to discuss in this course, on the surface, it's very simple, and it really is. But once we get into the process of really applying it, well, there's a lot of little intricacies to it, and the more prepared we are to understand what those little things are, the easier it's going to get. So this last gateway really has to do with understanding the process of change. So a little summary of what you're going to get in this seminar. It's basically it's 6 one-hour sessions over 6 weeks. There's no test. There's no homework. There's no notes. They're going to be provided for you. There's no homework. It's designed to help reduce your feelings of overwhelm and to increase your sense of balance and joy. This is not a class that's meant to make your life more difficult. It's meant to do the precise opposite. Remember, you're going to have to do the same exact things. You're going to have the same exact requirements going through school and your field work, whether you're stressed or not. It's just going to make it a lot easier if you understand how you can be more relaxed as you go through school and field work. So, if you'd like more information, I invite you to visit my website, which is keyinsightcoaching.com. You can also email me at passingfieldwork@gmail.com. And if you have any questions, and on my website, you can also download a full course summary, which has the objectives for each section. And you can also feel free to ask me any questions you may have. Classes are now forming, so I hope that you will join us in this process of learning how to become the most amazing OT in the world. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you in one of my classes soon. Thank you.